this degree. And I don't think there's anything wrong with sharing that. In a sense, we've grown up with Virginia in some ways as a degree. And in many ways, Virginia is one of several students, and you will be the same, who teach us a lot about the way the world is changing. And the sorts of achievements that many of our finalists are doing now are simply fascinating and wouldn't have been possible, I think, even 5, let alone, or even in 10, let alone, I got that the right way around. Anyway, not very long ago, because the world is now so flexible and so interdisciplinary, and there's so many different directions one can go, and as Oliver demonstrated in his talk as well. So without too much further ado, I'd like to pass over to Virginia, who'll tell you about her story and the sort of work she's engaged with at the moment. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you, Amanda. Right, so I was asked by Carl a while back to tell my story, and the beginning it was a bit scary because I was like, well, and I'm right, there's a lot of people in the room, but as the weeks passed by and the date got closer, I found myself in a really good position, which was that of showing back on everything that I've done and everything that I'm doing now, and how Basque has shaped me and how I'm slowly shaping myself. And I feel it's very valuable to me, and I want to thank the department for having me here. And I hope with my presentation, didn't know what to call it, and I think it's pretty obvious from the title, I hope I can put into perspective what all of you are about to do, which is 3 or 4 years of what I think is a great course. So I'm going to start by talking about my past, where I come from. I'll go on to doing what I'm doing now and how that came about, and hopefully what I aim to be doing in the future. So, that's me. I drew a really generic picture, so I apologize in advance. So I'm 22 years old. I spent 17 years in Madrid. I think I'm in the middle, but 3 years in London doing the course, 2 years in China learning Chinese. And I think from what I just said, it's pretty obvious that I like traveling, that I like different cultures, and I've tried to focus my work around trying to learn as much as I can from other cultures, from other people, and these are currently how my work experience looks like at the moment, and I hope that will become much greener with time. So that's me, and what I'm going to try to do is go through all my different experiences and try to draw conclusions from them and lessons learned, literally draw. So all of these things didn't happen since I was little. I was 18, I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I chose to go to China for a gap year. I didn't know any Chinese, just knew ni hao. And I was put in a class with all these beautiful creatures, and I was thinking, I don't know what I want to study. I did a lot of A-levels, I did history, I did further maths, I did physics, I did French, but I knew I liked learning, I liked the academic side of things, but I didn't know much about how I work in a real-life environment. So I hoped to learn a bit more about my strengths and weaknesses, and I think I did, and I'd like to share them with you a bit. So I learned that one of my biggest weaknesses when I'm having to work spontaneously and with people is patience. I am very impatient, I like doing things my way, I like doing things fast, and I like to be efficient. I'm Spanish, by the way, I didn't say at the beginning, I look German, I'm Spanish. So this lot really taught me how to be empathetic about others, especially with kids who are just opening their eyes to the world. And going on from weaknesses to strengths, I realized and I became much more confident on my creative skills. And creativity is not just being imaginative or a problem solver or all these different things that you're told in school, but it's also making things fun, trying to make things more engaging and more inspiring for others. And I'd like to put an example, which was climate change. So we were teaching a group of 8-year-olds about the effects of deforestation, of climate change, of global warming, and so on. And we came up with a brilliant idea of making them suffer so that they take it, they can feel more empathetic and realize that it's a problem that will affect themselves. And the way we did this was as followed. We spent a whole week in class building this, creating this rainforest and undersea environment, and the kids were making it all beautiful, different plants, different animals. And over the weekend, the teacher and I went to school on a Sunday morning and we destroyed everything. Like, the room was awful when the kids came on Monday. We made 2 kids cry. Don't say that, but the idea was the kids were really, worried about what had happened and if the school had been, like, some thieves had come in or whatever. But the idea at the end of the day was that these things are happening currently to our world and to our environment, and we are the ones making it happen. So being creative is about making people engage and understand the significance of what you're teaching them. So that's a bit what I got from my year abroad in China. No, not in my year abroad, my gap year. And then in China, I found out about the UCL Basque course, in which we're all in. And Carl asked me to say a bit why I chose UCL or why I came to Basque. And after much thought, I realized that I don't have a clear explanation, it just seems right. I did a lot of A-levels, I didn't know whether I wanted to do science or humanities, I liked economics, I liked history, I liked physics, and with the years I've kind of come to understand what is great about Basque, but at the beginning it just seemed right, and I hope that can, you guys can empathize a bit about that. And whilst in Basque, I was like, well, I'll work on different subjects and then see where they take me. So I did a bit of maths, I did economics, I did engineering. Engineering took me to, I'm interested in infrastructure in developing countries. And then all of these you have to program, and then all of this you have to do stats analysis on. And then everything fits in a wider politics context. And slowly, I started connecting dots towards what I'm interested in today, which is sustainability. I will go into sustainability in a bit, but essentially I'm interested in how we're affecting this world, affecting ourselves, affecting our future generations, and how can we make our world from a different perspective a much better place to live in. Another thing I did in my first year in Basque was found the Basque Society, which I guess most of you will be familiar with. And as first president of the Basque Society, we had no clue what to do. We had no clue where the course was going to take us. We were a group of people who had just applied to this great thing, which was founding the Basque Society, because every department needs to have a student society, and we were not sure what to do. And me as the head, I felt I had a genuine responsibility in driving this forward and getting somewhere. And what I learned was how not to be a leader. And what this means is being critical is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't go to sleep thinking, why am I so bad, or why is this not working? It's rather, how can I learn better? And I always put the analogy of a ball. And what I learned was that the ball represents the vision of Basque society. What does it have to do? By the way, it was free when I founded it. So I thought I was responsible for driving it forward, to putting a path, to devising solutions and creative things. And we thought of having an incubator where everyone could bring their ideas and we would somehow get funding to deliver these ideas, and then everything would just be marvelous. And I realized that whenever I wanted others to do the job, or say, okay, give me your idea, or tell me how we should do this, I was not getting a reply. And that was because I had the ball for myself. And whenever I threw the ball to my team, it just bounced away. In contrast, what I think makes a better leader than I was, and what I hope, what I know the following presidents did, was be much more proactive, be much more engaging with the team, and so that when you throw a ball, the ball just keeps on getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and hopefully you get to places. That said, nothing went disastrous. It's just an introspective thought. Something else I got out from first year was I got an introduction through the Quantitative Methods module on the applicability of maths and programming and science and all of these things into real-world problems. So this is Hannah Fry, who's the one who will be teaching you guys. And she kept on going about how we can make numbers and figures and thoughts and subjective and objective opinions mold our understanding of real-world problems. And what she asked us to do was the coursework, which I think has changed a bit, but when I was in first year, the coursework was ask a question that interests you and answer it with numbers. So everyone had all different types of questions. Some people were asking how long until people will develop superpowers and crazy stuff like this. My question was, is it true that the more you have, the more you give? So richer countries, is it true that they give more? So I was looking into philanthropy and so on. And then in first year, I don't think it was here, but it was in another of the Basque events, Carl invited a guy called Dave to give a presentation, and he's a philanthropist, if you like. He's set up a startup that gives, that is kind of like just giving, but much better than that. I'll go to it in a moment. And a friend of mine at Basque asked me, hey, why don't you email this guy? Because he might have information that you might need for your QM project, Quantitative Methods project. And I was like, no, he must be really busy. I mean, he's got an enterprise and I'm just a first year student. And he really pushed me, and then I was like, actually, yeah, I might be able to get something from him. So that's how I've met Dave. And Dave has changed my life. So I asked Dave, I sent him a really formal message, dear Mr. Erasmus, I am Virginia Alonso Navarro, blah, blah, blah.
Should say he was only about 26 at the time, wasn't
he? He is, but yeah, and I was only 18 or 19. So we do feel like we're at the lower level of the pyramid, but as I'll show in a moment, we aren't. So I sent him an email, really formal, please can you share some data on giving patterns, blah, blah, blah. He answered me within 10 minutes and said, hey, can you give me your phone number? I'll call you tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. What am I going to say? My English is not as good. So the next day we spoke, and he told me, this is great, I really like your research, but if you don't mind changing it a bit, we could apply it to my current business model and innovation, and I'm really into engaging students and academics and so on to be more innovative and think about new ways of giving and how to make people give more. So what I ended up doing with Dave, is work part-time as a research analyst for his company. This was in first year, so whoever tells you cannot do an internship until second year, that's not true. So I worked for him. We did all sorts of different things. For the end of year conference, which you guys will have to do soon, I put together a group of UCL Basque students, and we won end of year conference project. It was great. We worked with Givey. But most of all, what Dave has taught me is how to be a leader. And what I've learned from him is that the little details make a massive difference. So that doesn't look like it, but that is like a bottle. So Dave would not send you an email. He would ask you to go for a beer. He would call you directly. And I think this is a key aspect of being a leader, which is being approachable, getting people to criticize you or to teach you stuff and also to compliment you. And this makes you feel very valuable. I mean, I was only a first-year student, but this boosted up my confidence in a way that I think every one of you deserve to, because it's a great learning experience. And how he made me feel valuable is by being extremely empathetic with me and asking me about my problems, asking me about what I wanted to get out of working with him. And he didn't do this because it was in his interest. It was in his interest to make me grow as a person, and I feel I really got this, and I made a lot out of it. So, in summary, Basque talks such as what Oliver just gave to you, plus Basque modules made me meet Dave, and the bottom line, I think, is Basque creates the perfect space to find a Dave, and I urge all of you to make use of it. So I hope Oliver Quinlan gets massive amount of emails from you guys in a few months' time. Another thing I did in first year was engage in a society. We founded this society called Ideas Society, still going on, and I urge everyone to learn a bit more about it. Ideas stands for International Development and Economic Advance Society. And what we do is we set up social enterprises, money-making projects which are sustainable in developing countries. And the one we founded was Bookbridge. Bookbridge is a learning platform I'm gutted that Oliver went. But what we do is we use unused books in the UK, so books that are normally given to charities and so on. We work with charities to send them off to under-resourced schools in China and give them to the students so that they can engage in their reading, in their English reading and language skills. Now, we not only do this, but if you donate a book to Bookbridge, you are connected with a student in China who receives that book on an online platform, and you can talk. So Bookbridge has now become an NGO. It's getting a lot of funding from very big English schools and also from the English government, and we're hoping to make it much bigger. So I think what I get from this is just engage yourself in as much as possible, even if it looks too big for you. At the end of the day, if you have the right team and the right resources, you can make it happen. And of course, if you want to learn a bit more about Bookbridge, which is still happening as a UCLU society, please come talk to me. Another thing that I did was in second year, the summer of second year, I did two internships. I know all of you will have to do. Oh no, it's not compulsory any longer. It was. You should. Okay, let's say that. You should do an internship. I did two because I was not sure what I wanted to do. One was at the UCL Energy Institute, where we modeled low carbon transport technologies for the future, which was great. And my second internship was with Access Strategy, and I will go into that in a moment because I'm still working for Access Strategy and it's slowly changing my life, and I'll go on to talking about that in a moment. So that leads me to the present, and before I go into Access, I'd like to go back to Basque. And just so you know, I was asked not to talk much about Basque because it doesn't have to be selling, in Spain we say selling the boat. Rather, it is an introspective thought of mine of trying to understand how Basque has shaped me, and it's been really critical, and I'll go on to explaining why. So as I said before, I've been connecting dots to what sustainability means. And for me, sustainability is a tree hugging or ecological, environmentally friendly fluff. It's much more than that. Sustainability, it's an economic matter, it's a political matter, it's a law matter, it's a psychology and neuroscience matter, and it's also philosophy, although it doesn't quite look like philosophy, but whatever. And the idea is, in a liberal arts course in the States or the other ones that are in the world, you can pick and mix, and you can do a bit of this and you can do a bit of that. But what I really got from Basque was this: they pushed me to create my own way of doing things, my own discipline of and perspective to sustainability. And the truth is that doing things your way and making things and learning things your way is scary because no one has done it before. And when I chose to look at, and I'm doing sciences and engineering as my major, so I'm doing a lot of renewable energy technologies, but at the same time I was really interested in the economics side. But the economists were looking at it from a whole different perspective, and the engineers were looking at it from a whole different perspective, and I was like, where do I stand in the middle? There's nothing there, it's a genuine gap, and how am I going to fill it if I'm only 20 years old? My way is also hard to explain. I feel really passionate about what I'm doing and what I'm learning, but I have to explain every single day to my grandmother, let alone my parents, let alone my cousins, let alone other people who are friends of mine who are not in Basque. I have to explain every time what I'm doing, where I come from, what I'm studying, and what my title or degree is going to be. But at the end of the day, this happens because your way is different, and because your way is yours. And if I want you to take something from this talk, it is that, at least from a sustainability point of view, the world has massive problems. The earth is getting hotter, people are consuming too much, all these different things. And of course you need engineers, and of course you need economists, and of course you need lawyers to solve this. But most of all, you need people who understand the problems and who understand the implications. And that doesn't fall into one discipline. That falls on your way. So, just to sum up, I looked at sustainability from a physics perspective, from a computer science perspective, from an engineering perspective. This is my major pathway. But I also looked at it from an economics perspective, international development, philosophy, and many more. A lot of these I've learned from speaking to my peers. I have friends really interested in sustainability from a law perspective. All of these Basque people. I have friends interested in sustainability and international development from a neuroscience perspective. So everyone in the room can make you learn as much as your professors, lecturers, and future bosses, if you like. So make use of that. And how do you do that? I was reading this paper last night and I was like, I need to get this on my slides, which is about learning how to learn. And this was the key sentence from the whole paper. And it reads, learning how to learn is the single most important goal for sustainable development. Why is this? Because sustainable development is an evolving problem, but the thing is, most of the problems and good things about the world are still evolving, so we need to keep on learning about how to adapt ourselves to changing circumstances, how to adapt to technology, how to adapt to policy, and all of these things. And I really like the sentence, and it really reflects what we're supposed to learn in the course. And instead of only talking about me, I wanted to show you a bit what other people in final year Basque have also been doing. So I'm not the only one doing, looking at greening the world from all different types of perspectives. We have people studying quantum physics and art. We have people studying neuroscience and global health. We have people studying how can we educate people to be more aware about the scientific facts behind climate physics, philosophy and machine learning, which is artificial intelligence, and global politics and film. So also in final year Basque, there's a student who's doing a film on refugees, on refugee camps, and every weekend after lectures on Friday, he's going to different refugee camps and reporting all of these things. Not sure if you knew, Carl, but things are happening. So my summary of this little picture that I drew is that your way has hard parts in it, but it is a good place to be, because it is a good place to see, it is a good way of seeing the world and of reacting to the problems that are most pressing today. So now, to Actis. I worked with sorry, I haven't explained what Actis is. Actis is a development consultancy implementing international development programs. What this means is whenever you hear that the UN is giving 40 million to Afghanistan or IMF to Rwanda and all of these things, it's not them just giving the money, it's them giving the money to a company or to a consultancy that then implements the project. And that consultancy, that private entity, is the one I'm working for. And at Actis, I've done all forms of stuff. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I come from a sciences background, and they're qualitative analysis businesses, if you like. They have a lot of politicians, a lot of security experts. And I worked on different stuff. They suddenly realized that I could code, so I redid their website. They suddenly realized I could draw, so I did some illustrations for them. But most of all, I learned a lot about the sector, and I learned as much as I could have learned doing a course or studying in front of books all day. So for me, working is one of the best ways of learning. And something that I learned from them is, if I'm not happy with something, say it. So for example, I loved what I was doing, but I was missing the sciences part. And just because you've been given a role of writing reports or doing qualitative research, I stood up and I told the director, I'm good at stats analysis. Is there any way we can fit stats analysis into the research we're doing now? And what ended up happening was we started using more stats analysis, data visualization. We hired a statistician from the EU to help us deliver all of this. And right now I'm delivering basic stats analysis workshops to politicians and to people in the development sector. And this also came in collaboration with the MIT Poverty.
Can I just chip in so people don't get freaked out? You're not actually a brilliant statistician, are you?
I'm not. I'm crap. Sorry, this is being recorded.
Well, you didn't do very well in your formal exams, but you're able to explain what needs to be explained in...
Absolutely. And thank you, Carl, because this takes me to my next slide, which is the 4 formula. What is the 4 formula? It is you don't need to be a data science expert, you just need to know a bit of data science and the basics. You don't need to be a 10-year development practitioner with 10 years in the sector, you just need to know a bit of development work. And with these two together, you create something new, which is, in my case, data science for development. So this is the 4 formula. And I think you can do this in all aspects of what you're learning. If you do your major pathway for your minor pathway, there you are, you've created your own area of expertise. So Actis really liked this, and Actis had already their ideas of creating a tech company that does tech for the work they do, called Actech. And now, myself and another colleague of mine are creating Actech as its own software company, which is getting funding from Actis, but it will have its own identity and its own vision. And what we do is we build tech for development. You see the 4 there. And what do I do is I got this in an email last week, which I thought I also had to dump in. And it is what someone in my team at Actis described me like. This is my role, apparently. And it is, she leads on the art of the possible from a tech perspective. Actis staff then looks at the art of the possible and refine it, and then I make it happen. What this means is someone who's a security expert says, Virginia, we need a better way of analyzing conflict. And then I go and talk to the developers and I say, these guys need a better way of understanding conflict. What can you do? And they're like, we can do this for this much. And I go back and I'm like, I can do this for this much. And it gets a bit more complicated than that, but it's a constant learning experience day after day. And the whole point is, really humbly speaking, why did they... Oh, sorry. This is me just completely going into the abyss by leading on the art of the possible, because the whole point is that why was Virginia put in this position? Is it because I'm a tech genius? I'm not a tech genius. I'm not a stats genius. Is it because I'm a development expert with 25 years of experience? No. Then why? And it's been a really reflective exercise to kind of understand why they want me. And I know I am cheaper than others, but I also know that I can make new connections easily. And what this means is, I'm not a tech genius, I'm not a development work genius, but when we have a technologist and when we have a security expert in the same room, I can make connections that they hadn't thought about. And this is already making something new. And for me, this is common sense, this is creativity, this is critical thinking. But for them, it's a learning experience, the learning from my suggestions. And I think this has really made me confident about what I do. And another thing that I do is I learn fast and I learn as I go. And I don't think I've ever had a job at Actis that I've known perfectly and completely exactly what to do from start to end. I've been experimenting, I've been finding new ways, I've been learning new ways of delivering the task that I was asked to do. And for me, I feel this is something that I can really contribute to the company. So that takes me to the future. I hope I have explained a bit what shapes me right now, what makes me get out of bed right now. And clearly, Actis is a great place to be for me because I feel valued, because I learn every single day, and because I love what I do. But at the same time, I'm really passionate about the idea of sustainability from all these different perspectives, because every time I read a paper, I think there's something missing. And then I feel like I can contribute something new without necessarily being a 25-year expert in X discipline. So the whole point is that I don't know what I'm going to do, but I feel confident because not knowing exactly what I want to do in the long term makes me realize that I'm in a position where I'm asking new questions that haven't been answered yet. So whether I keep on working for Actis, whether I completely change sector, it's up to me, and I feel I'm developing the skills to make real change happen. So I'd like to finish off with a CV and me walking off a cliff. And what does this mean? When we think of someone successful, we think of someone who is really experienced, who has earned a